Hello YouTube, and welcome back to Central Tabletop Gaming. As you can see here, I have lined up what seems to be a bunch of various junk, but it is not. I'm happy to inform you today I am going to be telling you how to get started on Warhammer and what you need to look for. Let's get started with probably the most important thing you will need is this big old thing. This book right here is the rule book. You will basically need to read that pretty much as much front to back as humanly possible and realize that without this book, you're pretty much not going to know what you're doing. So, getting this book is essential to your army and essentially to the rest of the game. Sometimes when you're at different events or game shops where you can find these, someone will probably have this book on them because it essentially tells you everything you need to know. Then, once you get the main book, you will essentially need to look for this thing. By the way, I am using my phone. I'm going to try to hold this thing as humanly still as possible. But we will see how that works. I apologize for any motion sickness caused. But this book here is your army's codex. The codex is essentially what tells you is what about your army. With said codex, you can choose from the different unit types and everything else. We will go over different codex reviews later. Also, if you watched my first video, I mentioned Imperial Scum. You may be astonished to realize I am not an Imperium hater. I just don't like their fanboys. But, moving on. Then you will need to look into some of these. These are the different models. We will get to that here in a second, what they look like when you pull them out of the box, which you can see slightly in the corner right now. These can vary in price. These ones, as you notice, were not very cheap if you are a poor person. On a side note, I know what the definition of being poor is. I live on a very small budget. Hence why in the first video I said, we will get to it when we can. However, do not be deterred, as we will get to everything we can. But as you will notice, these are Imperial Guard soldiers. You will also need an HQ choice. We will go over that when we look over the codexes. But, as of right now, do not fret. But you will need at least 3 different things of these. I will almost guarantee you. My Necrons took 3 different boxes. The Guards took 3 boxes. The Tau took a battle box, but we will get to what that is here in a few. Well, actually, let's get to that right now, rather than waste time later. The battle boxes do not look like this, but you can find them, and they are essentially a small army of various pieces. I do not own one currently, but when I got to look at my friend's Tau, it came with a unit known as a Pariah for a fast unit, some crisis suits. I'm assuming you can use one of the crisis suits as a commander, and several regular fire warriors and drones. So, essentially everything you need to get started. But if you wish to customize your army more, this is what you're looking at. Here you will see one of the grids. Sorry it's so dark, but again I am using my phone to film this, and it does not help with the lighting. This is what these guys here look like when they come out of the box. You can see there are different weapons, arms. There should be between 3 to 4 pieces from what I've witnessed so far. Well, as you can see, these are horrifically unpainted and disgusting looking. Not as pretty as these. No, they do not come like that, obviously. So what else will you need? You will need these. Glues, paints, brushes. I actually have been told multiple times people will paint the model after they put it together. I do the other way around. Because personally, this is one of my friend's vehicles from his what is it called? The Dark Angels, and he is using it as a rhino. But, as you can see, I would have a nightmare trying to paint the tiny little crevices that are all over this vehicle. But, essentially, it is a very nice thing to do, but we will go over that in a painting video. Next thing you will need in order to play are these. You will notice in the back of your codex it mentions templates. Different weapons have different blast sizes. There's also a cone one which I could not find, so I apologize in advance. But there are 3 of these. A small blast template, a large blast template. You will need these as well as the cone template. These will be for various weapons such as grenades, for Necrons, the particle whip, and various other things such as flamers for the cone. You will basically need to also have these. Not the little man standing in the corner holding up his sword and pistol like he's actually ready to go to war, but the dice that allow him to do stuff. I have a crap ton of dice, as I am known for other gaming systems such as D&D, Pathfinder, White Wolf. But when it comes to tabletop gaming, this handful of dice, yes, I said handful as I have seen people with so many dice before, I don't know how they held them all. But we will get over why you need so many dice in a future video, but I recommend having a minimum of 40 dice. Usually you can buy them in a small container. I believe the one that this group came in cost me $5-6 at most. I really like the color red, so you can guess what color I got. Once your piece is assembled, he'll look like this. Little guy, as you've seen earlier. And they are very fragile in some cases, such as my Necrons. He's a little more durable, but you don't want to jostle him around. So you might want to look into something very important, like the carrying case. This is not very good lighting, and again, I do apologize heavily, but you will need one of these. They come with little inserts for you to put your models, all the way from this guy's size to other infantry sizes. This is very important, as breaking a piece is essentially a nightmare, and you will eventually hate yourself for having to replace it so many times. Hopefully, listening to this advice will prevent you from having to do such. I do not have space in this one, however, to hold more than just my infantry, as it does not have large enough slots to hold things like this. However, I have seen other cases big enough you could hold said vehicle in. Next you will need, but not necessarily need, are these. Now I say not necessarily, as back in that rulebook I happily informed you about, the objective cards are in there. Data cards does not stand for, oh, this is what your army does, in the sense of unit cards, like in War Machine, but they tell you what your army needs to do during the midst of battle. We will go over that later. This is essentially everything you need just to get started, and the price of these can vary greatly. Needless to say, they are very costly, and a poor person probably should not get into this hobby with too much hopes of not spending a whole lot of money. However, I have seen armies go on the internet for decent amounts. Please do your research before you buy, as I am not responsible for you overspending. There are different ways of doing things. There are different techniques, different styles of gameplay. Do your research. And last but not least, I would like to mention you can get all this, but sometimes it's just not enough. What if your Imperial Guard want to have a big mech to back them up? Well, you can always get different books that expand on the already existing universe. Hopefully, to the better. These usually involve more points from what I've seen. They will mention different upgrades. This is just one of the books I happen to have. Again, he will have his own personal codex reviews, as the Imperial Knights are pretty amazing. Gameplay-wise. Lore-wise, I know they have controversy, but for another time. As you can see, this is, again, not a cheap hobby. What I recommend is, again, several pieces of research. I have used sites such as eBay. Different gamers have given me advice. You've seen my Wraith in the first video. I actually was originally never going to go Wraith, but when one of my friends had shown me how awesome they were, I now don't seem to pull them very far away from my army. But again, this is Jeremy Kelly from Central Tabletop Gaming. I do hope this has been informative enough to at least let you know what you need to get started on Warhammer 40k. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you found this helpful or entertaining. And have a great day.